Air Mauritius Limited, operating as Air Mauritius, is the flag carrier of Mauritius. The airline is headquartered at the Air Mauritius Centre in Port Louis, Mauritius. Its main hub is Seewoosagur Ramgoolam International Airport. The company is the fourth largest carrier in Sub-Saharan Africa, and has an important standing in the European, African, and Indian Ocean region markets. The airline won the A 2011 Indian Ocean Leading Airline Prize Euro, making it the seventh year in a row for it to win the award. History: the company was set up on June 14, 1967 by Air France, the BOAC enterprise, and the government of Mauritius, with a 27.5% stake each. The balance was held by Rogers and Company Limited, the general sales agent for Air France and BOAC within Mauritius. In the beginning, the carrier operated international services in conjunction with Air France, Air India and British Airways, which jointly had a 25% holding in Air Mauritius at that time. Until 1972, the company restricted its activities to ground services only. It started flight operations in its own right in August 1972 with a six-seater Piper PA-31 Navajo aircraft leased from Air Madagascar, connecting Mauritius with Rodrigues. The aircraft wore an Air Mauritius decor, but kept a Malagasy registration. In 1973, a wet-leased Vickers VC-10 from British Airways enabled the company to launch a long-haul route to London via Nairobi, whereas services to Bombay were operated by Air India. The Navajo was replaced with a 16-seater Twin Otter that was acquired in 1975. When an agreement with Air France and British Airways came to an end, a Boeing 707-400 wet-leased from British Air Tours helped the airline to start long-haul services in its own right. Long-range operations started on November 1, 1977. A second Twin Otter arrived in 1979. By April in 1980, 1980-04, the company had 414 employees and a fleet of one Boeing 707-420, one Boeing 737-202 Twin Otters to serve a route network of passenger and cargo services to Bombay, London, Nairobi, RA Copyright Union, Rodrigues, Rome and Tananarive. Ownership of the company had changed to have the government of Mauritius as the major shareholder, followed by Rogers and Company, Air France and British Airways and Air India. Air Mauritius acquired a second-hand Boeing 707-320B in 1981. It has previously belonged to South African Airways, and permitted the airline to return the Boeing 707-400 to British Air Tours. In November 1981 a 1981-11, a joint service between Air Mauritius and Air Madagascar began in the Tananarive Mauritius Comoros Nairobi and RA Copyright Union Mauritius runs, following the lease of an Air Madagascar Boeing 737. During the early 1980s, routes to Durban and Johannesburg were inaugurated using Boeing 707-320B aircraft flown with Air India and British Airways crews. The incorporation of a second aircraft of the type, bought from Luke Xavier, allowed the carrier to expand the European route network to Rome and Zurich in 1983, whereas Paris was added in the mid-1980s. Leased from SAA, a Boeing 747 SP named a Eurocubed Chateau de RA Copyright Dueta Eurocubed entered the fleet in November 1984, 1984-11, and was deployed on services to London. By March 1985, 1985-03, the fleet comprised two Boeing 707-320BS, a Boeing 737-200, a Boeing 747 SP and a Twin Otter. That month, the first of two Bell 206 Jet Rangers was incorporated. In April, a 46-seater ATR-42 was ordered, and Singapore was added to the route network with a weekly service using Boeing 707 equipment. In June that year, Air Mauritius joined the African Airlines Association. In 1986, a second Boeing 747 SP that was also leased from SAA entered the fleet. It was named a Eurocubed Chateau Montplaisir Eurocubed. The incorporation of this aircraft allowed the carrier to phase out a Boeing 707. In 1987, South African Airways landing rights on Australian soil were suspended by the Australian government and Qantas ceased its operations in South Africa. There had been an increase in demand from businessmen since that time, as most passengers travelling from South Africa to Australia had to stop at Hong Kong, Taipei or Singapore. Given that landing rights in Australia for Air Mauritius had not been approved yet, a Boeing 747 SP non-stop service to Hong Kong commenced on October 29, 1989, in cooperation with Cathay Pacific. Flights to Kuala Lumpur had started in May 1988, a 1988-05. Valued at $122 a million and financed by a group of banks that included Barclays, BNP, Credit Lyonnais and the Spectrum Bank, the company took delivery of two Boeing 767-200ERs in April 1988, a 1988-04. These aircraft were named a Eurocubed City of Port Louis a Eurocubed and a Eurocubed City of Kuopio a Eurocubed. One of them set a record-breaking distance for commercial twin jets on April 18, 1988, when it flew non-stop from Halifax, Nova Scotia to Mauritius, covering a distance of almost 9,000 miles in less than 17 hours. A contract worth $8.9 a million including spare parts for these two Boeing 767s had been signed a year earlier. Also in 1988, a Boeing 707 was leased from Air Swazi Cargo to operate freighter services, and the first ATR-42 started revenue flights in December, replacing the Twin Otters on inter-island services. A second ATR-42 was ordered in September 1989, a 1989-09. By March 1990, a 1990-03, the route network included Antananarivo, Bombay, Durban, Geneva, Harare, Hong Kong, Johannesburg, Kuala Lumpur, London, Moroni, Munich, Nairobi, Paris, Reunion, Rodrigues, Rome, Singapore and Zurich. A new route to Perth was inaugurated in December 1991, a 1991-12. Named a Eurocubed PLNQ Eurocubed and leased from ILFC, the first Airbus A340-300 entered the fleets in May 1994, a 1994-05. Following delivery, a Boeing 747 SP that was on lease from SAA was returned. The airline became the first in the Southern Hemisphere to fly the A340-300. A second A340-300, named a Eurocubed Pink Pigeon Eurocubed and purchased directly from Airbus, was handed over by the aircraft manufacturer in October. Services to Brussels and Cape Town were launched in July and November that year. Also leased from ILFC and named a Eurocubed Kestler Eurocubed, Air Mauritius' third A340-300 joined the fleet in April 1995, a 1995-04. The airline started trading on the Stock Exchange of Mauritius during the year. In 1996, the last Boeing 747 SP was sold to Qatar Airways and direct flights to Manchester were launched. At April 2000, 2000-04, Air Mauritius had 2,000 employees. At this time, the airline had a fleet of 5 Airbus A340-300s, 1 ATR-42-300, 2 ATR-42-500s and 2 Boeing 767-200ERs that served a route network including Antananarivo, Brussels, Cape Town, Delhi, Durban, Frankfurt, Geneva, Harare, Hong Kong, Johannesburg, Kuala Lumpur, London, Mile Island, Manchester, Maputo, Mauritius, Melbourne, Milan, Mumbai, Munich, Paris, Perth, Rodrigues Island, Rome, Singapore, Saint Denis de la Réunion, Saint Pierre de la Réunion, Vienna and Tsar one Quarter-Inch. African medium-haul routes started utilizing the Airbus A319 following its delivery in 2001. The A340-300 enhanced version was ordered by the carrier in mid-2005. The A340-300 enhanced was put on service on the London Heathrow route in December 2006, soon after delivery. In late 2007, the fleet saw the incorporation of the Airbus A330-200. A second aircraft of the same type was delivered in October 2009, a 2009-10. Corporate affairs. Key people: as of March 2013, Apalsamy Thomas held the chairman position, and Andres Viljoen was the chief executive officer. Both were appointed in Augusta 2012, 2012-08. Ownership and subsidiaries: in 1995, the company was listed on the Stock Exchange of Mauritius. As of March 31, 2013, shareholders having more than 5% of participation in the airline are Air Mauritius Holdings Limited and the Government of Mauritius, while other investors hold the remaining stake in the company. The carrier is 51% owned by Air Mauritius Holdings Limited, which is in turn owned in its majority by the Mauritian government. Air Mauritius wholly owned subsidiaries are Airmate Limited, Air Mauritius Holidays Limited, Air Mauritius Holidays Limited. Australia: Air Mauritius SA Limited, Mauritian Holidays Limited and Mauritius Helicopters Limited. Partly owned subsidiaries are Mauritius Estate Development Corporation Limited, Point Coton Resort Hotel Company Limited, and Mauritius Shopping Paradise Company Limited. As of March 2013, Air Mauritius had 2,341 employees. Headquarters: as of March 2013, Air Mauritius had its headquarters at Air Mauritius Centre in Port Louis, Mauritius. Destinations: Codeshare Agreements: as of March 2014, Air Mauritius had codeshare agreements with the following companies, which are the actual operators on the routes specified: Air France, on the Port Louis-Paris-Port Louis route and on several European routes radiating from Paris; Emirates, on the Port Louis-Dubai-Port Louis route; Malaysia Airlines, on some routes radiating from Kuala Lumpur; South African Airways, on the Port Louis-Johannesburg-Port Louis route; Virgin Australia Airlines, on the PMV-Adelaide-Perth, PMV-Brisbane-Perth, PMV-Melbourne-Perth and PMV Sydney-Perth sectors. Frequent flyer program: Air Mauritius frequent flyer program is called Kestrel Flyer, which offers silver and gold accounts. Fleet, recent developments and future plans: in July 2014, 2014-07, during the Farnborough Air Show, it was announced Air Mauritius signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Airbus for 4 Airbus A350-900s, with the option to place additional orders for up to 3 more aircraft of the type. It was also informed the carrier plans to lease 2 more of these aircraft. Current: as of June 2014, the Air Mauritius fleet consists of the following equipment. Aside from the equipment shown above, the airline also has 2 Bell Jet Ranger helicopters that are used for tour services. Historic: the airline previously operated the following aircraft. See also: List of airlines of Mauritius, Transport in Mauritius. References: Bibliography, Guthrie, Benner Encyclopedia of African Airlines. Jefferson, North Carolina, 28640, MC Farland & Company, Incorporated. ISBN A0-7864-0495-7. External links: Air Mauritius official website, timetable year, effective year October 27, 2013 AA March 29, 2014. Air Mauritius. Archived from the original on December 5, 2013. Annual Report 2011/2012. Air Mauritius. June 28, 2012. Archived from the original on September 5, 2012. Annual Report 2010/11. Air Mauritius. June 30, 2011. Archived from the original on May 24, 2012. Annual Report 2009/10. Air Mauritius. June 2010. Archived from the original on May 24, 2012. A.